Well, I'm in Studio 2 here at Manx Radio, and with me is the legend that makes Chris Williams the legend. That's a good start, isn't it? But the Breakfast Show, man, I mean, forever been here at Manx Radio these days, but you have a past, and this past has been catching up with you because Radio Caroline, you've had this great affinity. I know you've done numerous things in the past, but Manx Radio have got this big event coming up, so over to you, and it does involve yourself.
Well, it does. It primarily, to start with, it involves the other man, of course, because you know, most people will be aware that Radio Caroline was anchored in Ramsey Bay in 1964, and in 1967, of course, the British government passed the Marine Offences Broadcasting Act, which made it basically illegal for these watery wireless people to play music and have good fun on boats. And August the 14th, 1967, is this coming Monday, so that's where the special event weekend comes into play. Caroline North, of course, in Ramsey, and the South Ship in the 60s sort of rattled on until 68, basically ran out of money. And they were towed into a shady harbour in Holland, where the Fredericia, the MV Caroline, which was the ship anchored here, was deemed to be too far gone, so they scrapped her, unfortunately, and kept the Mi Amigo, which was the South Ship, the one off the south coast of England, and that was sailed out under darkness by some shady Dutch crew and a skipper in the early 70s, and ended up back in the radio industry. You know, it's an interesting story. The legend of Caroline has sort of involved numerous shipwrecks, more than two.
But it keeps going, doesn't it? I mean,
and it keeps going, yeah. We've been boarded by Dutch officials, British officials.
And this wee business, because you've worked on Caroline.
Yeah, I was interested in Caroline from probably my early teens, when I heard that there was a rumour that Radio Caroline was coming back. This is after the Mi Amigo, incidentally, sank in 1979. And there were rumours abound that the legendary Ronan O'Reilly, the Irish businessman, was acquiring a ship, which he eventually did, and it's an ex-Cod War trawler. It's the largest side-haul trawler ever built. Still holds the record for the biggest catch of cod in the Icelandic seas. Involved in the Cod War. Wow. This thing is huge. It actually towed an aircraft carrier at one stage, so it's big enough to hold its own, you know. And the North Sea and the Icelandic Sea is not a very hospitable place to be, so it needs to be a fairly decent boat. So that's where my interest in it originally stemmed from, was that I was a radio anorak. You know, I was into radio, wanted to be on the radio, and so I had my cassette player. In those days, it was okay to walk down the street on the way to work with a Gesso blaster on his shoulder. We all did it.
We're going back a long way here, Chris.
Yeah, and of course mine was tuned to this strange frequency on medium wave, as it was in those days. So the Ross Revenge came back to sea in 1983, and lasted until 1989, when it ran aground. There's another shipwreck for you. And in the meantime, of course, you know, I was listening to Radio Caroline, and then when the ship went through the running aground off the Goodwin Sands, it was towed into Dover. It was in a bit of a mess, quite frankly. But this loyal band of supporters sort of rallied round, and there's lots of voluntary monies floating about, and a bit of money from Ronan O'Reilly. We never quite know where that comes from.
Careful what you say.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's true, though. He'd accept that himself. And so the ship ended up in the River Blackwater in Essex, which is where it is now. And they started doing some restricted service licence broadcasting with monthly things.
Like community radio size, just little bits.
And also to raise funds. You know, they did boat trips and all that kind of thing to go and see the Ross Revenge.
So it's sort of back, and it's got bigger, hasn't it?
Yeah, so I started working on the Caroline point of view, doing those RSLs when I could. But of course, when I moved to the Isle of Man, which was 110 years ago, it's a bit more difficult to get backwards and forwards. So the ship's been renovated, it's been looked after, it's in pretty good nick. So everybody thought it would be a great idea this weekend to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Marine Offences Act. So, and of course, you know, if you think about the household names that cut the teeth on pirate radio, the likes of over here would be Tom Lodge and Don Allen, people like that. Household names: Kenny Everett, Dave Cash, Paul Burnett, David Lee Travis, Tony
It
Blackburn,
is incredible, isn't it?
Johnny Walker, of course. And Johnny Walker was the man who was on board Caroline at midnight on the 14th of August 1967.
But it all became illegal.
Everybody closed down, and he said, we're going to carry on.
Amazing.
You know.
Well, let's talk about what you're doing in this section, because we'll do another one about marine offences and that. But you're going to be broadcasting Manx Radio yourselves, whatever.
Yeah, we've had a tie-up with Radio Caroline for the last couple of years now, where they've been broadcasting generally the last weekend of the month using our AM service, which is great for them. It's good for us. It's a tie-up for the Isle of Man, and you know, it brings back a lot of memories for people here, because I think Caroline is held quite dearly in people's hearts who remember it. And so we thought, well, this is a special occasion. We're not going to, well, I'm certainly not going to celebrate this one again. I won't be around for the 100th. So let's take some kit down there, and we'll do some shows from the ship. So we're going to do Carnaby Street this Saturday, and then the Monday morning breakfast show. They've got a big party on in Clacton, so we're going to Clacton-on-Sea.
Sounds very nice.
It's fantastic. The Royal Theatre, Clacton-upon-Sea.
Oh my!
And there's going to be some slideshows and presenters there from the past, and you know, so we're going to have a bit of a natter with some fans. We've got lots of boat trips going out this weekend.
And you've been on this before, because I know we're watching a bit of YouTube video which you made.
We did one 3 years ago, which would have been Caroline's 50th birthday. So we celebrated that, and a colleague and I went down and did a video and put it on YouTube. It was good fun, and we had a tour. We did the engine room and the transmitter rooms and the record library and all that kind of thing, which proved quite popular.
You are an anorak.
Oh, I am an anorak.
Mind you, I can say that because I'm probably.
But you know, the great thing that now about Caroline is there's a double-edged sword to where Caroline are coming from. First of all, it's a trawler, so people are interested in its maritime history, and secondly, they're very interested in its radio history. You know, the radio studios on board, the equipment was used for the boat that rocked. So, you know, in the film, you see the old mixers, and they actually took them from the Caroline ship, used them in situ, and then brought them back. The record library is all there. It's about 14,000 albums, you know, which you just don't see nowadays. That huge amount of vinyl. So for the radio anorak people, that's great.
They actually keep it on vinyl, do they?
Oh yeah, it's all there. And the big Gates turntables.
So you're doing your show on vinyl this weekend?
No.
No. But you're going to be broadcasting live from it, are you?
Yeah, we're doing live from the Ross, for a couple of hours Saturday morning. We're going to go to Clacton, do some live inserts into the show, into Manx Radio here, and all that's being broadcast on 1368 anyway.
It's a 4-day fest, isn't it, though?
Yeah.
On AM here?
Yes.
So the whole thing you'll be able to catch on Manx Radio from Saturday till Tuesday?
Yeah, Saturday morning from midnight they'll be running overnight service. I'm on from 8:30, so they're running regular programming between 6 a.m. on Saturday morning to 6 p.m. on Tuesday night.
Okay.
So,
well, if you've got other section, we've dealt with the events of that day, which is blooming, about how it affected the Isle of Man. It was a massive constitutional thing, so have a look at that one. Yeah. Have a lovely time there.
Yeah, I will.
And don't get too wet or seasick or whatever else that you used to have problems with. Holding the records on, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah, and that's why they've still got open reel tapes, the old reel-to-reels that we used to use, because, you know, sometimes in the North Sea, certainly, I wasn't there when in its time in the North Sea, but it was rough enough that you'd have to revert to tape because the turntables were jumping everywhere.
Wow. Do listen out. Manx Radio, 4 days, Saturday through till Tuesday on 1368 or 219 metres.
219.
Sounds better, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Sort of thing.